Oh, they're like in the lobby still. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. We're going to give it just a couple minutes for some more people to join, and then we'll get started. Okay. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Mandy Miley. I am a program coordinator for our driving concern, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. Today's webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be made available on the Our Driving Concern YouTube channel. I ask that all participants please keep your microphones muted during the presentation, and I encourage you to use the chat function for any questions you might have during the presentation. We should have time at the end to address any questions. Our presenter today is Lonny Haschel. Lonny spent 33 years in law enforcement and retired from the Texas Department of Public Safety in 2021. He is now the program manager over the Check to Protect program led by the National Safety Council. Check to Protect is a national campaign led by National Safety Council that encourages drivers to check the recall status of their vehicles and have open recalls fixed immediately. With that, I'll turn it over to Lonny.
Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. I'm going to hit my share screen button here. What everybody needs to know about me is technology is not my friend. So let me know if things aren't working. I also need to apologize in advance. I am in northern Indiana, rural Indiana, and I'm over a military operations area. So if you hear loud noises, the fighter base wing out of Fort Wayne, Indiana airport, the F-16s are practicing above my head right now. So if there's obnoxious noises, that's our U.S. military forces practicing what they do best. So my apologies for that in advance. Vehicle recalls. A lot of people, no big deal. Why do I need to worry about that? I just did a quick Google search for you. And I just typed in vehicle recalls in Google and hit news. 23 hours ago, Kia recalls 137,000 vehicles. 2 days ago, GM recalls 500,000 models due to high accident risk. 1 day ago, Tesla recalls 376,000 vehicles for power steering issues. That's just in the past 2 days. So vehicle safety recalls are a huge issue. So off we go. I'm going to talk pretty quickly, so I leave time at the end, but this is, I'm going to try to impress how important it is for you as employers and fleet managers and such, and the business aspect of things. So here we are. Introduction, what's Check to Protect? What's the issue, the risk, how's it work, and then how to share the message. So what is Check to Protect? It's a national campaign led by the Safety Council focused on recalls. A lot of people look at a recall as though, it's like the blender in your house. I got a recall from Target, and I bought the thing. It's a little bit different. This can impact your safety on the road, the safety of your occupants, the safety of children, safety of your employees, safety of others. So we have a collaborative approach to addressing these open recalls. We've involved it's called the OEMs, or the auto manufacturers, are the ones that are the power behind this. We encourage checking the recall status of every vehicle and get those things fixed, and try to be proactive, not wait on that letter from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, kind of do things in advance. So here you go. Just over the past few years, there are your numbers. Over 28 million vehicles in 2024 were recalled. I just rattled off the ones that were just recalled over the past 2 days. And they can be for anything from software to powertrain to safety issue, airbags, you name it. But there were 33 million vehicles affected just in the past year or so. And this is from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So it's an issue. Currently in the United States, there are 57 or over 57.7 million vehicles out there with vehicle safety recalls. Light trucks, 24%, minivans, 23%, passenger cars, 21%. It's a huge, huge issue. And just as the economy has had a little change here in the past several years, the cost of vehicles is through the roof, and people are keeping things longer. So the average age of a vehicle here in the United States is now 11.4 years, and I'm one of those. I drive a 2007 Toyota Tundra, so and I'm not the first owner on it, so I have to make sure that I am checking recalls myself. Because if you don't have a relationship with the dealer, you may not be aware that your vehicles have recalls, especially if you're buying used vehicles for your fleet, for example. Uh, if you bought it from a second party or from another business, that vehicle manufacturer may not be aware that you own that thing. So that's what we focus on is some of the older vehicles because the recall compliance rate goes down as the vehicle ages. So greater than 5 years or less than 5 years, it's 83%. Greater than 10 years, only 29% of the new recalls that are issued are being fixed. And there's, like I said, over 57 million vehicles with open safety recalls, and over 14 million of those have 2 or more recalls. So it's definitely something we need to look at. We want to try to encourage everyone to look at this from a maintenance standpoint. I was up in Michigan and I met a fleet manager who drove all Penske trucks, for example. And we were talking about recalls. He said, I don't have to worry about it. Freightliner lets us know because we buy everything new. I said, that's fantastic. But what about the employees that drive those? And he asked for more information. And I said, well, think about it. If your employee has to drive something to get to your truck, and if they have a recalled vehicle that is their personal and something happens, they can't get there to work. And he hadn't thought of it that way. So that's why we're here. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you to try to get your help to not only protect your fleet vehicles, but your employees, because they are our most important asset is our folks that are working with us. So each state, the darker shade blue, navy blue, are the most highly impacted. I'll give you some numbers here in just a moment, but every state has some serious recalls that they are not getting repaired. So there's your list. California leads the nation with 6.1 million recalls. Texas is a close second at 5.9, and we go down to Florida 3.8, and insert your state here. But there's a whole bunch of cars out there that we need to get fixed. So why is this a risk to your business? Financial. Number one is downtime. If you had a fleet of vans that you use for an HVAC business or whatever you've got, and one of those blanket recalls comes out that I just mentioned at the top of the presentation, it's one of those nearly 500,000 vehicles that GM just recalled, and it was for it's diesel powered pickup trucks. So if your business has a bunch of GM pickup trucks, you might want to check to make sure that those things aren't part of this new recall. Because if your whole fleet goes down, that's a huge issue for your productivity and for your revenue stream. The other thing is brand reputation. So whatever your business is, and you get customers calling for whatever service you've got, I can't get there because my vehicles are down because of a vehicle safety recall. They're going to move on to the next person. They'll go right down the Google list and try to find somebody else. So you want to make sure that you're on top of that, make sure that you don't have any issues, and you certainly don't want to have a fleet vehicle out there with a recall issue that gets into a crash, because then we get into liability. So that's another aspect of it. Operational disruptions. You've got those delays caused by vehicle repairs or replacements. So you're looking at the dealer And I would encourage all fleet managers to have a relationship with whatever brand you have of service vehicle, so that maybe you can get things scheduled. Hey, I've got X number of business. Here's my recalls. Can we set up a time and just do one or two at a time or whatever? But you don't want that recall, that downtime, that vehicle's not available to impact your day-to-day operations. And there can be also compliance issues, legal and regulatory obligations regarding vehicle safety issues. So it's really important for everybody, fleet managers, company owners, business owners, and drivers, to make sure you're staying on top of these things. And this is what I mentioned about that person who was leasing the Penske trucks. Really didn't think much about it for his scope until we talked about the people that are driving those. So, I just mentioned those hundreds and thousands of vehicles that were just recalled over the past couple days. Chances are good that one of your employees has one of those vehicles. So they need to get to work. Well, now my vehicle's recalled. What do I do? They're going to call the manufacturer, the dealership, and say, hey, is this part of it? Do you have the parts available? They will schedule an appointment. Depending on the recall, it may take a while, and they may or may not have, when I say they, I mean the dealership, may or may not have replacement vehicles for them. Sometimes they have loaners, sometimes they'll give them rides, other times they're on their own. So you as an employer might want to be mindful of that. Say, you get that call from Joe who does whatever route you've got. Hey, I've got to drop off my pickup truck because it's got a recall on it. I want to make sure my family's safe. I'm going to be late for work. So you may need to take that extra step, work with that employee, have somebody pick them up, meet them there, do whatever you can do to kind of accommodate and help them make sure that their family's safe and that they arrive at work on time. The other thing to consider, if they have one of these recalls, we're going to talk about Takata airbags here in just a moment, but if somebody is injured from one of these recalls, and I'll use the Takata airbag as an example, if that airbag deploys in a crash and that inflator, those steel fragments come through, that person is going to be impacting your insurance. So it's something that a lot of people don't think about down the line. Yeah, I've got a recall, I'll get it. It's not really that big a deal. It's working fine now, but the crash happens, that inflator comes out, breaks apart, sends shrapnel through the cabin, and now your employee or their family is injured. They're going to be off work, and then they're going to have insurance claims. So things to think about, a little bit broader picture. A lot of folks just look at recalls and kind of shrug their shoulders, and I'll get to it when I can. But from a business perspective, it's really a good idea to be on top of these things to get them fixed. So let's start with a couple of those special warnings. Some of them are do not drive or park outside. As of February of last year, so just a year ago, and I've not got my updated numbers from our partners at Carfax, but there were 4.2 million vehicles under this do not drive or park outside warning. As you can see, 433,000 to do not drive and 1.4 million to park outside. So what are those warnings? A do not drive advisory is NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or in conjunction with the manufacturer themselves, have determined that there is some issue with that vehicle. It's a serious safety issue that could lead to an actual crash or physical harm of anybody or someone inside the vehicle. So anybody that has a do not drive recall needs to park that thing immediately and call the dealership. These are so serious that the dealership will send a tow truck or a wrecker service to wherever that vehicle is and tow it in and fix it. They don't want anybody behind the wheel. And this often is accompanying with that, or often associated rather with that Takata airbag. There have been 29 people killed and over 400 injured because of that airbag inflator. Upon deployment, the pieces of metal in the fragment in that inflator come through the airbag and into the passenger compartment. So this is one of the most serious that's out there. And there's still about 7 million of these vehicles out there with those Takata airbags that we're trying to reach individuals to get these fixed. 67 million was the total number back in 2016 to 2019, give or take. There's still about 7 million that are out there. And we've actually had some new ones where they found that these are part of the same batch, but they have been recalled at a later time. So just December of 2023, they recalled another 1 million front passenger airbags. And in just January of last year, 50,000 were added to the do not drive list. And those are side impact airbags. So again, just I can't stress enough the importance of checking not only your fleet vehicles, but having your employees check their family vehicles because it can impact not only your work productivity, but your insurance claims and such should something bad happen. The other is the park outside advisory. These are where NHTSA, in conjunction with the auto manufacturers, have issued a recall where there is a risk to parking structures. Something could happen where a fire could occur. And they don't want someone parking in their family house, the structure, the garage, where that fire would spontaneously happen because of this recall and then injure other people or cause property damage. Anyone with a vehicle that has that park outside advisory needs to make sure that they reach out to the manufacturer immediately and park that vehicle wherever you can away from buildings, structures, anything else that catch on fire. Special advisories, these are rare, but you need to be aware of these. We work with the U.S. military, and this is one that they had not even thought about because they had some of these vehicles that were recalled that they were parking in areas that could be next to fuel tanks. Very flammable situations. So if you happen to have, your business, whatever it is, and you've got that vehicle that's under that park outside order and you're pulling them inside, maybe a fleet parking area or inside a warehouse, again, you need to be aware of those. These are really rare, but they do happen. And keeping up with what type of recalls you have is very beneficial to protect the employees, yourself, the business, your reputation, the whole works. So how does it work? Check to Protect is just a web page. We at the Safety Council, safety is our middle name. It'll be funny later. But at the National Safety Council, we don't want your information. We don't want your email address. We just want you to be safe. So when you go to checkprotect.org, this is the web page that's going to pop up. And you simply select how you want to enter your license plate or your VIN to check for vehicle safety recalls. It's not an app. It's not a download. We don't want any information, any access to any information off anybody's phone. We just want people to be safe. So you can either enter the information manually, your license plate or your VIN, or you can just take a picture of it. This is very handy for like safety events and such around the country. People are out there doing, VIN etching or whatever, child safety seat inspections, for example. And users can just kind of take a step back and either take a picture of the VIN plate inside the door or through the window or off of an insurance card or whatever. Or you can just take a picture of that license plate and they'll ask you to confirm, is this the right number? You'll look at it and say, yes, off it goes, and you'll get a result. Again, it's not an app. It's not a sign up. We don't need an email. And this is what the results look like. Like this vehicle is that airbag inflator that I was talking about that could explode. So this Ford Fusion has 2 of those. If you don't have a relationship with a dealer, we've added a Find a Dealer button on there. All you do is click on that, and we will get you connected to the closest dealer to where you can get that appointment and get these things fixed. And it's really important for people to know, especially the older vehicles. We find this often with our military partners. The young drivers, think back when you first got your very first car. If you were like me, you drove a 25-year-old pickup truck that was a hand-me-down from your caregiver, grandmother, grandfather, something. I got the old vehicle. I had no idea what a vehicle recall was until I bought my first car when I was in my late 20s because I drove that silly truck forever. So they just don't know what it is. They don't know that the recall repair is free. So some of your employees may be in that same boat. They just have never bought a new vehicle. They keep buying used things, 10, 15-year-old cars because new cars are expensive. They don't want the payment. So they may not be aware what a recall is and the fact that they get fixed for free. So that's where we can use your help just to provide that education out there. So how do we manage things? Number one, be proactive with the fleet managers, whoever is running that at your business. Make sure that the drivers that you have or your vehicles are enrolled in a recall notification system. You can do that through, say, Ford or the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, for example, or you can do it on Check to Protect. You can sign up for a calendar reminder. We'll send you a calendar reminder every 3 months. If you're getting the oil changed in your vehicle, just add that as part of your maintenance. Uh, you're going to check the tires, check the brakes, check the windshield wipers, check the brake fluid, antifreeze. Oh, and let's check for a recall at the same time. It's just you're doing that, and this doesn't take but seconds. Uh, when you do get a recall, make sure that information promptly gets to the vehicles or the drivers of those vehicles so they know about it. And then if you need to, take them out of service or follow whatever guideline your manufacturer says. Some of them may say, you can continue to drive it until we get the parts, which is great. Then you can schedule it at your convenience. If you have the ability, it might be beneficial to establish like a recall management system to track and manage the status of the vehicles, whether they've been repaired or not. You'll continue to get letters, and some of you may have gotten letters for vehicles you haven't owned in probably 10 years. That's because your vehicles were sold at auction or at a dealership or wherever, and the auto manufacturer has lost track of who that is. They work with the Department of Motor Vehicles in many states, but sometimes, and this may come as a shock, but as a former police officer, I can tell you people don't always tell the truth as to where they live. We've had recalls list Disneyland, Disney World, Legoland, SeaWorld, and vacant lots as the location of the physical location of the actual vehicle. So it might be good to have a system to track which ones have been repaired, which ones not, so that you aren't constantly getting those letters. Once they are repaired at the dealership, then they're removed from the list and you will stop getting those letters. Have that relationship. I mentioned a lot of newer drivers don't go to a car dealer. Some people are afraid to go to a dealership to have things repaired because they're afraid of the upsell. But it's for you as a business, it's a good idea to have a relationship with whatever brand of vehicle you use for your business. You can get with service managers and such just to touch base with them. If there is a recall, they can help you with scheduling, coordinate things, maybe minimize that downtime that you've got. And if you have the ability, sometimes they can prioritize your service because they know that you are essential to the community and what you do. Make sure that you have some good policies at your company. Define procedures for what happens when we have a recall and this vehicle now is out. How do we, do we pull somebody else? Do we put them both in the same vehicle? Maybe if you have like back in my police days, we had a spare fleet car sitting back in the corner. We knew everything was safe on it. It was good to go, and it could be used for whomever while the other vehicles were down for maintenance. So if you have the funds available, I know that's an expensive thing to do, just have a vehicle sitting. But it may be a good idea to have like one that you can use maybe as a administrative or management vehicle that can be put into service at any point if something goes down. Make sure we've got training to your fleet managers and drivers on how to identify recalls. That's where checkprotect.org comes in. Let them know, hey, check your family vehicles as well. Raise that awareness about the importance of vehicle maintenance and try to get out of that mindset where, a recall is like my toaster at home doesn't work. This has a little bit more impact because it's what we rely on for our livelihood, for our business, and for the safety of our employees and our families. And then use telematics if you can for a fleet management system to monitor vehicle performance, track all recall notifications if at all possible, and then do as much as you can with that technology because it just makes your life easier. So how do you help share the message with those employees or fleet managers or whatever you've got? Checkprotect.org, there's our QR code. It's just a web page. Just type in checktoprotect.org in any search engine and it will be the first thing that pops up usually. Click on that and it'll take you straight to the web page. We have all kinds of recall tools and partner resources on there. At the very top of the page, if you click on recall tools, if you have a fleet of vehicles, you can check up to 10,000 at one time. This is through our partner, Carfax. You'll reach out to them, ask for an account, they'll get you set up, and then you'll download an Excel sheet, a CSV file with however many vehicles you have, again, up to 10,000 at one time, and it'll send you a report back on how many of your vehicles have recalls, what they are, when the recall was issued, and then you can reach out to whatever manufacturer you have to get those things looked at. We also have a tire recall tool lookup. We also have child safety seats, and then we also link back to NHTSA's page as well. The big difference between NHTSA's page and Check to Protect, we have the photo tool. It makes it easier for consumers. Snap a picture, boom, there's my VIN, there's my recall. So that's the big difference between the two. Mentioned partner resources on there. We've got everything from social media to pamphlets, posters, whatever you could ever possibly want. We try to keep up with things. We have PSAs, we have digital advertisement. If you need handouts, rack cards, palm cards, and that kind of thing, I'll drop my email address in the chat, and you can reach out to me directly, and I can probably send you some of those things to have for your employees if needed. And we've also got the downloads that you can get there on straight from the website if needed. So with that, try to keep it within. There we go. I got 5 minutes left for Q&A. So I'm going to hit my stop share button here. And if you have any questions, let me know. And there's my email address for everybody. Whoops, if it'll go. There we are.
Perfect. Thank you, Lonny. That was great presentation. Such a useful tool. I think we just have one question right now. If you could pull back up the QR code slide, please.
Done and done.
Thank you.
One will go to the Spanish page. The other one will go to the English page.
Perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat the evaluation for this webinar. And we had another question. Can you share the slide again with the number of recalls out there and the number responded to or corrected?
Sure can. I'm going to hit my stop share button so I don't give everybody whiplash. And we'll go back to it. Something unique, and I'm glad you brought this up. Let's go. I'm not sure which one you want. There we go. So for Check to Protect, I mentioned that the auto manufacturers are actually behind it. They approached the National Safety Council because we're brand agnostic. We aren't selling anything. We don't regulate you. Sometimes the auto manufacturers were finding if someone got a letter from whomever, Toyota, Honda, whatever, people were throwing it away because they thought it was a marketing thing. If something comes from the National Safety Council and we're talking about it, I mean, look at all of you, you're here, you're part of our driving concern. You are interested in the safety of your employees. It has a little bit different impact because again, we don't sell anything. We just want people to be safe. So I'm not sure if I want to make sure I get what you needed, but there's over 57.7 million vehicles in the United States that have open safety recalls. There's the recall rates. The recall compliance rate, less than 5 years is 83% because those people probably bought that vehicle straight from a dealership and they let them know, hey, I bought this from John down at so-and-so Chevy and we know he's got this, so we're going to get that taken care of. 5 to 10 years, it starts to go down, and vehicles that are 10 years or older, only 29% of those are being repaired. And that statistic I was mentioning for checkprotect.org, if people go there, they take the initiative because they've listened to you sent it out to your employees, and they went to checkprotect.org, they found that they had a recall, we're at nearly 80% repair rate. So if someone takes the initiative, go to checkprotect.org, they learn that they've got a vehicle recall, 80% of the people that go there get those things fixed within 90 days. So we're pretty proud of that number. And if you want to drop in the chat, I had some of the states up here, but if you were curious about, there we go. Curious about your states down below that, I've got the whole list of all 50 states here. You can drop that in the chat and I would be happy to answer that as well.
It's awesome. I know 2 of our states, Texas and Ohio, are on this list.
So folks in Kentucky, 910,038 vehicles in your state. And we also do percentage of registered vehicles. So for Kentucky, 23% of all of your vehicles still have an open safety recall. Wow. So it's a lot. The highest in the nation is Mississippi. And Mississippi is 26% of all registered vehicles in the state of Mississippi have an open recall.
It's crazy.
And Tracy's asking about the state of Louisiana. You have 895,464 vehicles with open safety recalls, which is 24% of all registered vehicles. So, and we get these numbers from our partners at Carfax. They're the database. So if you have that recall on your GM product and you had 3 of them, you go into the GM, they fix it, but they only had parts for 2. They leave the 1. It comes off at midnight. So that's where we're able to get these numbers from our folks at Carfax. So I am up against the clock. I got 29 minutes after. So Mandy, if there
Yep.
aren't any other questions, I'm going to be quiet and turn it back to you.
Thank you. No, I don't. Oh, excuse me. I don't think there are any more questions. Thank you all for joining us today. I did put the evaluation in the chat, and this webinar was recorded and will be available on the Our Driving Concern YouTube channel. Thank you. Thank you, Lonny.
Thank you.